Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Takara Tomy figure to take a look at. This is another of those newer style figures where we sort of have articulation on them and stuff, kind of similar to like a Mattel figure, but nowhere near as good. This time though, we have the Tyrannosaurus Rex. We recently had taken a look at the Triceratops. I was a little underwhelmed with that one. I think I'm probably going to be underwhelmed with the T-Rex as well. I feel like just Takara Tomy has so much more potential than what they're actually delivering, but you can see again we have similar style packaging to what you would get with a Mattel figure. We can also see that this is called Dark Flame. That would be the name of this T-Rex, and I get that, you know, you've got a very dark appearance to it, so that's interesting. But you've also got an okay looking paint scheme. I actually kind of like the way that they painted this, where they have the black tone for the body and these stripes here in the face. I kind of feel like maybe they're meant to be an injury of some kind because it looks like it, but at the same time, you know, a white injury, I don't know why it would be that way. Regardless, interesting as far as the coloration and everything goes. I kind of like the colors, but the packaging is pretty much just like it was on the Triceratops. You could see a shot here on the back showing off the figure again in all its glory. You've got some more images down here kind of showing off some of the articulation and action features and stuff. And then up here you have a shot of the newer version of the Spinosaurus with the Tyrannosaurus, but it's actually not this one. That's the smaller T-Rex, but has the same style coloration, which I do believe I also have in the box back here behind me that I will be reviewing at some point. Regardless, I'm still quite interested to check this one out, so let's pop it out of the box and do just that. Oh boy, this one's a disaster straight out of the packaging. So straight away we can see that the figure has very strange proportions. I'm not a big fan of the proportions. It's falling over because I'm not holding it well. You can also see that it's got screw holes, you know, which is very Hasbro-ish, very yuck. And then we can also see this little spot up here in the middle of the palette, like just very obnoxious. You've got another one back here. So this entire side of the figure is just so rough looking. It just doesn't look good at all. When we turn it around and we look at this side, it definitely looks a little bit better, but the proportions and awkwardness of the figure as a whole still make it look very strange. So as a whole, straight off the bat, I can say that the figure doesn't look very good. It looks very, very weird overall, but we're going to go ahead, jump to a closer look at it regardless, and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the T-Rex, you can see it has some okay texturing, some okay fine detail to it. Once you get nice and close, you can kind of see it's got some okay sculpt, but a lot of the places kind of are a little muted as far as the detail goes. You can see the nostrils, but even the nostrils are somewhat muted up there on the snout. You can see again that we have that white striping here moving through, and I do think that the white playing off of the black looks really cool, but I'm absolutely now convinced that that is meant to be an injury because of what we will see on the opposing side. You do have a red eye with a white spot there to sort of give it that eye shine. That, I think, also plays off of the dark tones pretty nicely overall. We also have an articulated jaw, which is part of the action feature for the figure. And from this vantage point, I think it looks okay, actually. Probably the best view of it. But you can see we've got some skin here sort of stretching on the inside of the mouth, which looks okay. The teeth are kind of big and bulky. They don't look really that great. They're all sculpted together, all painted together. You can see here we've got a tongue sculpted on the inside of the mouth. Very nice dark maroonish tone, similar to what we actually see running along the upper side of the dinosaur for that area. You can see they did not even attempt to give it any sort of detailing on the inside of the mouth on the upper side. Just no attempt at all. So very cheap overall, straight off the bat. As you move back here, you can see that maroonish tone picking up. It also runs up here on the top of the head. It has some okay skin texture and everything up here. Not really anything that great. As we continue to move back, you can see kind of a short neck for our Rex, some okay skin texture, and again, more of that variation of black, and then that maroonish sort of a tone. There's an area randomly with a little bit of gray picking up here in the stomach region. We don't see that on the other side, so just randomly over here, looks like a paint mishap almost. There's also this button up here, which activates the action feature. Super obvious, super in the way, no attempt at all to try to hide that button. Also looks really ugly. As you move down into the arms, you've got some okay skin texture, pronated wrists, so that is unfortunate, and you can also see that there's no nail paint or anything, so nothing really great going on there. The dinosaur almost doesn't have a stomach at all. You can see kind of a little bit of a stomach, and again, the darker tone of the body color almost hides the detail, so it's a little hard to really see how nice that area looks. As you move along the back of the dinosaur, again, the skin texture is there, but it's super muted as far as the actual detail goes. As you move down, you can see some muscle definition in the thigh and calf, as well as the knee. That might be one of the nicest looking areas of the dinosaur so far. As you move down into the feet, though, the feet look very goofy, very small, and sort of childlike. You can see we do have painted nails on the feet, though, and they actually sport a nice glossy look for the nails with a black tone. The color also changes and transitions to a similar tone to what we see on the upper side of the dinosaur. And we do have dew claws sculpted and painted, so that's a plus. But there's another screw hole over there. And then as you move back up here, it wouldn't be Takara Tomy without some weird, awkward joints moving out into the tail, and you can absolutely see that. So you've got two areas here which allow you to sort of articulate the tail, but it also doesn't look very good, and the tail is unbelievably short. You can see, in general, the proportions on this figure are an absolute disaster, but the tail is super, super short. Moves nicely, but not really. It doesn't stay where you put it. It kind of just starts to fall back. You do have articulation in the legs, but the legs move together, and it's very, very jerky. So you can alter the positioning of the T-Rex a little bit, but it just doesn't work very smoothly. Yeah, we have articulation in the arms. That's actually the smoothest articulation I think we've seen on the body anywhere. And then, of course, the jaw, which we already saw. And then if we turn it around, this is the disaster side. You can see that it's very clearly meant to be an injury because we have an injury here over the eye. We no longer have like a pupil or anything in there. We just have a white spot for the eye. But we've got this spot, which looks terrible. We've got this spot, which looks terrible. As we move back into the body, you see screw holes beginning to pick up. We have another spot here where we have some slices down the side of the dinosaur. None of these are actually sculpted into the model. They're just painted on. And again, I do like how the white plays off of the black, but it just doesn't really look that great. No real big differences as far as the rest of the figure goes. You can see this leg is slightly more forward than the opposing leg in the position that it's in, but just very slightly. And then again, we lead up. We've got another screw hole as we lead out into the tail. The detailing on the underside continues to have a very muted sort of an appearance to it, similar to what we've seen through the rest of it. And we've also got one last hurrah here with the screw holes, as we've got one randomly under the lower jaw. So this actually might be the worst Takara Tomy figure I've ever seen, which is pretty impressive to say. Definitely not a good figure by any means. When it comes to the action feature, we again have this button here, and you can see all we do is get a nice little chomping action feature with the jaw, and that's really about it. Not really anything that great. As far as a size goes, for a length from the tail to the snout, about 10.5 inches or around 26.5 centimeters, roughly, because it kept trying to move on me when I was doing that. And then for a height to the back of the neck, a little under 6 inches, so more like 5 3/4 inches, or just shy of about 15 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to this weird version of the Takara Tomy T-Rex. And you can see again that it's got some okay size, but pretty small, especially when you look at like a Tyrannosaurus size range. It's a little smaller than Mr. Papo Rex, kind of similar body mass, but the Papo Rex is a little bit taller. So that shows you that definitely a bit on the smaller side when it comes to a Tyrannosaur like this. Not when it comes to a Takara Tomy style Tyrannosaur, because here, if we actually move him, that is your standard Takara Tomy style Tyrannosaurus Rex. So you can obviously see a very impressive upgrade in size when it comes to that, but it's also a very different style figure compared to your standard Takara Tomy release. We've also got a Mattel Dilophosaurus and Velociraptor here, stepping in for a comparison next to the T-Rex, continuing to show you again that it's got a smaller size. And then one final comparison, as we have the Takara Tomy Triceratops that is released in this same similar style next to the T-Rex. And you can see neither figure is very good, and as a whole, this line is definitely not something that I am going to put much faith into, because I don't feel like they're going to pump out anything that's impressive in this line, because if they're going to follow the trends that they currently are, this is going to be an absolute disaster of a line. If they try to improve, which they absolutely have the ability to, you know, there's a lot they need to improve on, but I feel like they definitely could do a better job. But right now, looking at these two, I'm definitely not going to look forward to whatever the next release is in this line. So this brand new Takara Tomy Dark Flame Tyrannosaurus Rex figure is pretty bad. Overall, it looks awful when it comes to the proportions. The overall appearance to it looks awful. I think the only redeeming factor for the figure as a whole is the coloration kind of looks okay at certain times. But I honestly think that's about where it ends. It's pretty cool to see that Takara Tomy sort of went the route of a Mattel-style dinosaur and made one like that, because it's kind of a Mattel Jurassic World-style dinosaur, but at the same time, there's just so much that needs to be improved upon, I wouldn't even know where to start. The actual fine detail of the sculpt really just isn't there. You can see that maybe with the original sculpt before they actually, made the figure, it might have been there, but the actual quality of the final release is pretty poor and does not look very good. It's very muted as far as the fine detail goes. The proportions are an absolute mess. Overall, there honestly isn't anything I look at on this figure that I could say proportion-wise looks good. The articulation is very jerky, doesn't move very well, and the areas of articulation that does move a little nicer, the only spot would be the jaw and the arm. They aren't really that great. They're okay, but the tail's super loose and doesn't really stay where you put it. The legs are incredibly jerky. The arms are okay, but there's very limited mobility in that area. And the jaw moves, but it's part of the action feature, and the action feature includes that horrible, ugly button on the back of the neck. So that as well is something that they could really improve upon. Smoother articulation, hiding the buttons a little bit better, way more fine detail could definitely be a plus, and working on the proportions also could be a huge addition to these figures. And the ugly screw holes and everything on the other side are an absolute disaster, definitely increasing my dislike for this figure overall. So I absolutely do not recommend picking this one up. I really don't think it's worth the time of anyone. If you're somewhere and you've got a kid that likes dinosaurs and you see this thing for dirt cheap, okay, they might enjoy it, but as an adult collector, definitely not a good figure. If you are interested, if I ever do see a link for this popping up on AliExpress, which I think, could happen at some point soon, I will update the description to include a link to it where you can grab it if you choose to, but as of right now, I am not a fan of this figure. Regardless, let me know in the comments section what you guys think of it, and also like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.